Hello, everybody. Welcome to my session on advanced automated visual regression testing. My name is Shweta Sharma and I work as the Director of QA Services at Accelerant. I've been associated with Accelerant for over 6 years now, and I am based out of Pune, which is located in Maharashtra state of India. And feel free to connect with me on various social medias like Twitter, LinkedIn. You can also check out my GitHub repositories. Talking about Accelerant, we are a completely distributed organization and distributed across 6 time zones. And we've been in the industry for about 10 years now and primarily working on Drupal projects. We are now 120 plus enthusiastic, kind, and open professionals, and openness, kindness, and enthusiasm also happens to be our three core values. We've worked on 100 plus enterprise engagements so far, and we strongly believe in contributing back to the community, and certainly contributing to the Drupal community has been one of our major and biggest contributions so far. For the next 30 minutes, roughly, I would be talking about these topics. So feel free to skim through the agenda for the next 5 seconds. Talking about what is automated visual testing. So we all know that visual testing means verification of the UI, and we would verify the content, the page layout, and we would also verify the UI for the responsiveness of the application on various viewports and also on various mobile devices like iPads and iPhones and even the Android versions of them. So when we talk about automating visual testing, what we do is we automate the verification of these tasks using various tools that are available. And we'll talk about various tools, we'll talk about the challenges in the coming slides. So before we even understand how every tool really works at its core, let's understand the basic algorithm that is adopted by almost all tools that give you this solution. So when the test runner is initiated, on the first run, what would happen is it would capture baseline images, which are also called as reference images. And on the subsequent runs, it's going to capture screenshots of the pages that you have configured as tests again at runtime. And it's going to capture these new screenshots that were captured at runtime and compare it with the previous baseline images. So what it's going to really do is it's just going to compare the expected versus the actual, and it's going to generate a pass result or a fail result, right? So when the test is going to fail, it obviously means there would be two outcomes primarily. If it was unintended, right? If the differences that were reported and whatever diffs you see in the reports, if that was unintended, which means that there is a UI bug which got introduced. And if you see that the difference that was generated by the report is intended, which means that this is the time to update your baseline image with this one so that on the next runs, the comparison happens with the updated baseline image. So for today's presentation, I have adopted a very different format that I'm going to be trying for the first time, is that I'm going to be talking in an incremental fashion in levels, so that depending on what level you are at, you would be able to relate to that level very well when it comes to the objectives that you're trying to attain, the challenges that you might potentially face, and the corresponding resolutions. And we'll also talk about some good practices around it. So let's assume that at level 1, what you would want to do is that we're going to be assuming that this is your first time to try out this type of automation, And the objective really is to optimize your testing efforts as an individual, because I'm sure you are fed up of testing the same UI on several browsers. Like, just to name it, I think all of our engagements primarily supports Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and yeah, i11 might go away soon, but there's still Edge. And so you are definitely trying to optimize your testing efforts as an individual, and to add mobile devices would also need that verification. And here we're going to assume that the site development is, we could say, is in progress, either progress or it's in maintenance phase, which means it's already live, and there are some small enhancements happening, say, not very frequently. So throughout the demo for level 1, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the Urban Hipster site, which is built on Drupal Commerce. And you can see that here in the slide. So this is what I'm going to be using for level 1 demonstrations. So for level 1, let's talk about a tool which is Backstop.js. It's a very powerful tool for beginners, because it's more config based, and you can get started with your tests immediately without really writing any code per se. Right? If you look at this slide, you would see that I have configured. So all of this configuration goes into a file named Backstop.json, and on the left side of the screen. So in the left image, you can see that I've configured this particular file to run tests on 3 different viewports, which is desktop, phone, and tablet. And I have specified the width and height of it respectively. And here I've defined a simple scenario. And so you can capture screenshot, or you can have tests at element level, or you can have a full page screenshot as well, a full page test, or you can also have a test for the current viewport. So here what I've done is I'm capturing the header of Urban Hipster. On line number 35, you can see that I have specified the CSS selector to capture only the header in the screenshot. And in the second scenario, I'm capturing the full page screenshot for category listing page for women. And so it's simple. All you have to do is just specify the URL that you want to capture the full page for. So here, what we're going to do is, so using the command backstop reference, we are going to first create the reference images, or the baseline images, as we say, right? If you see, for both the scenarios that we have listed, the reference images are going to be created using the command backstop reference. And once that is done, so let's see how the reference images look like. If you see, the reference images are created for desktop, phone, and tablet for both the scenarios, which is the category listing page and also the header element over here. So this is how the reference images would look like. And talking about, so now that the reference images are created, right, you would want to go ahead and check that the tests also, that the tests indeed works, right? Just give me 1 second. Yeah, so using the command backstop test, we are going to execute the test. And what it's going to do is it's now again going to capture screenshots of the scenarios that we have listed down. And once the screenshots are captured, it is going to compare it with the reference images that we created. Yeah, so this is how your report is going to look like, basic report. It says all 6 have passed. So 6 here means 2 scenarios for tablet, desktop, and phone. And you see that the reference and the test image, they both are identical, and hence our tests have passed over here. while you would be trying out, the level one in your project, you would face a challenge named as dynamic content. So let's say that, your site is live and it is under maintenance, but it still has some dynamic portions like the slideshow or the app block that you're seeing over here. So let's understand how can we resolve such challenges as an individual. So let me demonstrate the challenge for the dynamic content. What I'm going to do is here, I'm running a test for homepage, which has a slideshow. So Urban Hipster homepage, which has a slideshow. And it also has some flickering elements. We'll see what those elements are. Here, if you see, three tests have failed. That's because the slideshow is different in the reference and the test image, right? So let's see how it is different. And that's why, the difference has been highlighted in pink here. And Backstop.js has this nice feature of scrubber where you can just slide through and understand what the difference was in the reference and the test image. Here we can see that in the reference image, right, when the reference image was being captured, the slideshow was on the second image, whereas when the test ran, the slideshow was on the first image, right? And hence the test failed. But this isn't really a failure just because, I mean, the slideshow looks perfect, works perfect. It's just that, the images, the slider were on two different images when the reference was captured and when the actual test ran. So we don't really want such kind of false positives in our test. So let's see how to handle dynamic content now. So here the solution is that majority, like I could say, like almost all of the tools that are available, the automated visual testing tools that are available, right? They have this feature called as remove selectors and even hide selectors, right? So here what we are going to do is for the header part, we're going to remove the feature beacon marker, right? What I meant by the feature beacon marker was, we'll see it in the coming slides, right? So for the header element, we are going to remove the feature beacon marker that was flickering in the header and, throughout the page as well. So we're going to completely remove it while we capture the header element. And for the home page, what we're going to do is we are going to hide the home page carousel slide. So using the hide selectors, which takes in an array of CSS selectors, by the way, which means that you can hide multiple elements within a page which are dynamic. Similarly, remove selectors also takes in an array. So let's see what happens when we have added these CSS selectors to hide and remove selectors, right? So you have to recapture your reference image. So once you recapture your reference image, for home page, your reference image is going to look like this, wherein using the hide selector, the slideshow element is actually masked with a black section, yeah, but it's not really removed. So we are not going to use the remove selector strategy here for the slideshow because it's going to interfere with your page layout, which in turn is going to interfere with your testing results. And it would be, in fact, incorrect testing in first place. So note carefully that we have used the hide selector strategy for slideshow, and we've used the remove selector strategy for removing all these flickering beacon markers. We don't really need them in our tests because it's just interfering with our test results. Right, so this is how the header element is going to look like after we've recaptured the reference image for the header element. Now let's see what happens after we've implemented this solution. Does our test pass or does it fail? So we're going to run backstop test again, this time with the hide and remove strategy implemented. And it says 6 passed, 0 failed. If you see here, the reference and the test images both are identical, right? The beacon marker is gone. Here, the slideshow is not dynamic anymore, and that's why it's not going to interfere with the testing results anymore. Yeah, so for level one, you can use, there are various open source tools available, but I'm listing down only the tools that I have tried out really. So I've used Backstop.js, I've used Wraith, I've used also Spectre, and then there are commercial tools, which is the Applitools browser extension, Selenium IDE browser extension. There's Percy, there's Diffie. And so, the way that we're going to do this is that whatever tools that we discuss at level one would definitely solve the problems for level one. But that what it means is that whatever tools that we discuss at level two would solve the problems at level one also. Yeah, so that's how I'm going to take it in an incremental fashion. So that brings us to level two. Here, what would be your objectives? Once you have implemented it locally, you would want it to to go a step further. And there our objectives would be that you would like to involve more than one individual. So for example, if your QA team comprises say of more than one person, two, three, whatever, right? You would want others to benefit also, right? So that the overall testing efforts of the team are optimized. But the corresponding challenge there would be that baseline images created from one machine might fail on the other depending on what sort of hardware configuration you have. And so that term is really technically termed as anti-aliasing. So that is one of the challenges that you would face when you would try to achieve this objective. The other objective is that now here we just saw that we launched a homepage, we launched some landing pages, and we were just taking screenshots and verifying that things look okay. But then there are other things as well wherein you would like to simulate user interactions, like filling a form and interacting with your web application in various ways and still ensuring that the UI looks correct. The challenge there would be like you would have to look for a tool which integrates with your existing testing framework, right? Because you would need a testing framework or some sort of an automation driver in place which would help you to simulate browser interactions. The third objective here is that we would want to optimize testing efforts for a small development testing team, which means that you would slowly want to start bringing in these tests in your CI pipeline as well. So make sure you bring them in slowly so that the entire team is not irritated by the false positives that you generate. So it should always be done in an incremental fashion. So talking about the resolution for level 2 challenges, right? So anti-aliasing can be solved using Docker because that ensures that your environment is always going to be the same. So just ensure that you run your infrastructure is run within a Docker. You can use various cloud solutions like BrowserStack, Sauce Labs. Yeah, but of course, that's not a solution that would come for free. But that would always ensure that your tests run on the same environment as per whatever configuration you have done in your test in your config file. Talking about integrating with existing testing frameworks, there are many open source and commercial tools available that would, like automated visual testing tools available that would integrate with your existing testing framework. We'll talk about them. And integration with the CI setup. Unfortunately, we have only commercial tools available that provide out of the box support right now. Right. So talking about the tools, Cypress has many visual testing plugins developed by the community for the community. You can definitely go on Cypress. I've mentioned the link in the references section, so you can go and check there. Talking about the commercial tools, we have Applitools and Percy, which would suffice for your level 2 objectives. So let's take an example here. So what I'm going to be demonstrating is the contact us page, right? We mentioned that we would like to simulate user interactions and verify that the UI still looks intact. So here what we're going to be doing is we're going to verify the contact us page first, right? Even before interacting with this page, right? We can do that, of course. And we're going to check that after filling in the form and sending the message, the confirmation page also looks good enough. Here I have used Cypress with Percy. So Cypress can be used as your testing framework. It's not only a testing framework. Percy is the automated visual tool that I have used in this example. Of course, it's a commercial tool. And here, if you can see on line number 7, what I've done is I've captured a screenshot after filling in the form, right? After filling in the form, I have verified that the filled form also looks correct. And I've captured it on various viewports for 320, 1024, 1400. This can be, of course, configured on the test level, step level, or also it can be configured globally for all your tests. Again, after submitting the form, I have recaptured the screenshot to verify that the contact form submission test also works correctly. So let's see how this looks like. Yeah, so once the screenshot is, so this is the Percy dashboard that you're seeing right now. Here you can see that 325, 320, 1024, 1400 pixels is what we had configured the test for. And this is how the contact us page would look like after filling in the form. And since this was done for the first time, it says it's a new snapshot, right? And here you would also see that Percy by default supports running tests on Chrome and Firefox both, which means the execution of the test really happens only once, whereas the capturing happens in parallel on both the browsers and various viewports. So this is how our submission page also would look like. So here we would have two snapshots that we have captured, and what we are really going to do in the next video is that we are going to approve this baseline, right? So we can go ahead and approve this baseline so that our tool knows that this is what it needs to compare against. Yeah, so here what I'm going to do is just approve it. That's it, which means our baseline images are now created using Percy. Yeah, so let's understand how this works in the CI really now, right? Because CI things are going to be different. With CI, what you're going to face a challenge really is that how do you understand that which branch should be considered for the baseline image, right? And what happens if a bug is introduced in the feature branch, and we do not want this bug to slip into your master, right? So we would definitely want this to be avoided right in the feature branch itself. And for that, we need out of the box integration with this CI logic, where Percy and Applitool certainly provides that logic. And this example is using Percy. Here you would see that I have intentionally created a bug in the feature branch named contact us, whereas the master branch has this snapshot, and whereas the feature branch is having some visual bug that you are seeing here. Right, you can, of course, the dashboard provides various facilities, provisions, wherein you can go and check the diff, the original, and all of that. And what we are going to do is we are going to say request changes. So whosoever is in charge of this also provides some sort of collaboration wherein you can go ahead and actually post on the comment on the portal that the map is missing for in the feature branch that you had run the tests against, probably the technical architect, the project lead, and you're just going to say that changes are requested. So please rework on the missing bugs. So talking about level 3, which brings us to our last level, is that now it's interesting, how we started with level 1 and level 2, talking about the objectives. Now we're going to be talking about the challenges first, right? Because once you reach level 2, it's more than objectives. You are going to face challenges, right? So I'll talk about what challenges we were facing eventually when we had crossed level 2 at Accelerant. Is that you might run into false positives, and the cause could be anything, small vertical or horizontal shifts or browser updates, right? And there, the objective would be to avoid pixel to pixel based comparison, right? Because that's really what's causing this false positives. Then the other challenge was the time that we took to execute tests on several browsers and devices, right? So if you're going to use a cloud solution with any open source tool, what happens there is that the tests are executed also, right? Even though if they are executed in parallel, they actually get executed on all browsers and devices. Instead of, what we would really look for is that, we would want execution to happen once, but the capture happens in parallel everywhere for faster response, right? So, and the objective really was here to have better test coverage and at a faster pace. Frequently major change in elements, the cause could be change requests primarily, right? But there you would need better baseline management. Otherwise, it's just like you're so fed up of managing all the baselines, reference images manually. Scattered test, poor readability is, I'll explain what that means in the coming slide so that you understand. So the objective there really is that we want to group logically tests, right, of a certain feature, of a certain functionality, and not just have tests written randomly. So the tools available, open source, unfortunately none, but for commercial, we do have Apply tools and Percy to some extent. It would solve your problems to some extent. So what Percy does is it's going to ignore the 1 pixel difference intelligently. And what does is Apply Tools has 2 algorithms, right? You can use an AI-based comparison algorithm also, which is going to avoid these small pixelated changes or major vertical and horizontal shifts. And it also uses an exact algorithm if you wish to, wherein you don't want to miss out on a single pixel difference as well. So here, if you see what I meant by scattered tests was, this is the Apply Tools dashboard now. Here we have grouped all the tests, right? So the name of the project is here is the Umami Drupal site that we have, the Umami profile. And we have grouped all the article landing page tests in one test, and this is the batch name, right? And then we have grouped all the recipes landing page tests in one test. So this is the article landing page, and that is the recipe landing page. Also, you would see that we have executed the same test only once on Chrome, but it has captured screenshots on various browsers and devices that we have configured. This configuration also comes out of the box with the help of ultrafast test cloud provided by Apply Tools. Percy also supports this feature. I mean, not the batch feature or the grouping feature, but you can certainly execute tests on Chrome and Firefox and on viewports. This is a quick comparison that I have listed for you, which you can take a look at it later. I have listed down here the top 2 tools in my opinion, which is Percy and Apply Tools. And these are the various parameters that you can go through later. And if you have any questions, you can just ask me those questions. Yeah, now what, there's so much of information that you've had like in just 30 minutes, right? Now you're flooded with information. You're flooded with the tools, the objectives, the challenges. Now, what do you do with all this information, right? So you definitely need to have a testing strategy that goes unsaid. When it comes to capturing screenshots, element level screenshots are not very much encouraged unless your development is in progress or you are using a component based library, right? Otherwise you will have to maintain those locators. If your locators keep on changing, then this can be troublesome. And once your elements, they start getting combined into full pages, ensure that you delete those tests and have only full page tests. right? And you should have full page tests when you're comparing two similar environments or the entire page is developed as mentioned. Plan the level of visual coverage needed, right? Just because you have a visual tool, right? If you're going to go for a commercial tool, be aware that they're going to charge you for the captures, which means that the more number of screenshots you have, that's how the billing works. So ensure first you have the most impacted scenarios covered in your visual testing as well. There are many good practices that you can follow. We saw how you can organize test suites. I also spoke of, you should be speeding up your test execution by running them in parallel. And you should certainly identify the frequency to run visual tests in your CI pipeline. Do you need the visual test to run for every PR initially? Do you need that? But what once the project is stable? How about, running your tests once daily or only after every deployment? So ensure that you switch to these practices as and how your engagement also progresses. So here's a quick example of how you can organize your tests as per the browser. Here you can see that I have listed few spec files. This is an example using WebDriver IO for FF only, IE only, Safari only, right? Because, probably you might have identified a pattern that the contact us form usually fails on IE11, then probably I need not run it on all other browsers, only IE11 works as well. That would also speed up your test execution. That's just a strategy I would suggest. Creating suites, this help you quickly identify to run tests that only matter to you. For example, if there's some change that happened only related to blogs, you would not want to run all other suites, right? Probably running only these tests would also give you quick feedback about that change. Now, the key results that we've achieved so far at Accelerant by bringing in these tests is that we very cleverly handle the test data part of it, right? If you understand in test automation in general, and especially when visual testing comes into picture, test data plays a very important role. So ensure that you have smarter mechanisms to handle the test data. Probably you can import the database, which is quick, or you can have some scripts written which would help you create that content quickly, but ensure that your test automation data is separate from your testing scripts. Your testing scripts should focus primarily only on assertions, right? Because your tests need to be repeatable. That's how this strategy is connected really, right? And we've also chosen tools that seamlessly integrated with each other, because you don't want the trouble to add additional code logic, because that needs a lot of technical skills, which is again not cheap, and you would also spend a lot of time. So we just leveraged the tools that are already available in the market and which provide this out of the box integration. And while creating these visual tests, right, while creating those pages in the database itself, what we do is we create a replica as close as possible to the wireframe so that the visual tests are caught to what it would be in real time otherwise. And when you start with the intention, like, of course, I'm not bringing in the testing pyramid whole over here, but when you talk about writing acceptance assertion tests, right, what we've done in a couple of engagements is we are starting with writing the automated visual tests first, because that brings down the pace, the effort that is needed to write the acceptance assertion tests, drastically. I'll give you an example quickly if I have. No, so I think we just saw previously, like, the contactors form. I did not have a single functional assertion in that test. All I did was I captured a screenshot after filling the form and after submitting the form. Now, imagine if you would have needed to write the functional assertions there as well, right? It would have been time consuming. So we have saved considerable time there by focusing only on meaningful acceptance assertions. Now, some facts. This is a very important slide. Remember that in automated visual tests, there are efforts needed to maintain baseline images unless you are going for a tool which is going to do that for you comparatively in an easier fashion. Respect the test pyramid. Just because you have good number of you have good visual coverage, that doesn't mean that you skip on your unit tests or any service tests, right? You need to have that. Respect the test pyramid. And yeah, in automating visual tests, I think I've already spoken about, ensure you have full page validation. Do not have many element specific tests. and pick up the right candidates for automation, have logical division of tests. What I meant by usage of seams is, have smarter mechanisms to create your test automation data, and do not expect overnight success. If you are trying it for the first time or whichever level you are, try it in an incremental manner. Where to go from here? So if you do not have any coding knowledge, that's absolutely fine. There are many config based tools available like Backstop.js, Wraith, Applitools, site browser extension, right? You can also, if you are like a tester, non-technical tester, I would say, right? You can also pair up with developers or your test automation engineers and help them understand which are the most impacted areas so that they write the most important and useful tests first. If you are good with coding, right? If you are a technical person, then you can look for harmonious integration with your existing automated functional suite. Immediately cut down on the number of functional assertions if that's already being covered by your visual tests, and be brave and bring the tests in your CI pipeline. These are some of the useful references that you can surely go through. And yeah, I'm done. Thank you so much.
So we can open it for questions now.
Yes, please, Akanksha.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, please ask it in the live Q&A section.
Yeah, so I've mentioned Backstop.js. You can certainly try that, but that's a simple config based tool, right? And if you have a site which is already live, or you can use any sample site, and Backstop.js has good documentation. You can try that. And apart from that, so if you are slightly comfortable with coding or even understanding any JS based testing framework is, then you can also use, there are many open source plugins available in Cypress. The, the visual testing plugins that are available with Cypress, you can try that as well. They have good documentation as well. And if you're looking for a record and playback tool, right, to get started, then there's also this Applitools Selenium IDE browser extension. So that extension is available with Firefox and Chrome, and that's more of a record and playback tool which will help you with getting started with automated visual tests. Again, Applitools has fantastic documentation, so you can surely visit that slide, and I have mentioned all those important references in the references slide. That's a good question. Yeah. So I would say the estimation purely depends on the number of pages that you have in your application, right? So if you have the wireframes beforehand, the effort needed to automate visual tests is directly proportional to the number of pages that you have in your application, really. Right. I mean, that's the least effort that you can consider. And, if you've seen in the slides, the more effort is needed to maintain or strategize your test automation data. Once that is strategized, all you have to do is add the particular tool in your functional suite, in your automated suite, and there's just one line to capture the screenshot. That's it. All the logic is handled by the tool. Do you recommend any platform above other? So that really depends on what is your objective, right? What is it that you are trying to achieve? right? If, as I mentioned, and that's the reason I took this session in levels, right? If it is something that you are trying on an individual level, then you can actually go with any tool depending on, what you're comfortable with. And but if you are planning, of course, but when it comes to introducing it organization wide, when it comes to introducing it in your CI system, I wouldn't recommend any tool which doesn't have the CI support inherently, because then if your development is in progress, what happens is that your team has to maintain those baseline images, which can be irritating or frustrating at times. But then, if you are really on a budget, I would say still go ahead and give it a try. Just ensure that these tests do not run in your CI pipeline on every pull request until they are stable, right? Once the stability is there, you can use the open source tools as well. Exactly. Yes. So, yeah. So, talking about, how do we manage the database state is that you can always have hooks in place, right? For smaller projects, what we do is we have a before and a after hook. Wherein the before hook, it's more like an, arrange, act, and assert pattern, right? We arrange all the data, we act on it wherever necessary, and we add the assertions and we clean it up. Now, what I mentioned was you need to find out faster ways to arrange this pattern, which also means that populating the database either using import, or if you have APIs in place, you can quickly populate your website using APIs, right? You need to find out smarter mechanisms. You should definitely not populate your web application using the UI, because that's also flaky. But more than flaky, it's very time consuming, right? So you can use containerized DB approach, where you import it before running your tests. And of course, they have to be cleaned up so that your tests are repeatable, right? I mean, that's really out of the scope of this talk, but yeah, you need to manage that, so that your tests, so that the assertions happen sooner.
So we have another 2 minutes. And if there are any other questions, please do ask.
Now, I would like to talking about this managing the database. We've also seen in a couple of instances where we've actually collaborated with the developer to create those REST APIs for us, so that we can just populate the database quickly. It's more about collaboration and identifying the strategy. Okay, is full testing included in your offers you made to clients, or is it shown separately and the customer can choose? Yeah, we do have a basic package as such. And then when it comes to automation, right, we have then separate packages wherein we can always talk about what kind of automation are they looking for. Because really, when it comes to testing, often what it means is people just focus on the functional part of it, right, or just the UI part of it. But when you talk about the coverage really needs to happen on the performance level, on the security level, on the usability level, right? And so yeah, I mean, in offers that we make to the client, we have a separate line item for every testing type, really, right? When it comes to test automation also, we further break it down into, are we just talking about functional tests, are we talking about visual tests also, are we talking about performance tests as well, right? So we have separate line items for that. And of course, this does not exclude what you, yeah, so yeah, of course, I mean, we always have this basic coverage in our testing strategy, right? Very interestingly, we've introduced this basic software testing kit within every sprint. Is that, apart from just testing the acceptance criteria, we ensure that there is a certain minimal accessibility score achieved, Then there are no performance issues, usability issues. Yeah, so interestingly, we've explicitly introduced this software testing kit in every sprint now, so that we do not really procrastinate testing on performance issues towards the end of the application or the project. How do you manage the database? I think we've done this. Any
Yeah,
other?
we've answered all the questions, and I think the time is also up.
Okay. Thank you all so much for attending the session. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out to me to talk more about automated visual testing and probably how we do it at Accelerant and what we offer, you can always reach out to me on my email or on my Twitter or LinkedIn, right? I have shared those details in the slide. So please feel free to reach out to me.